Welcome in, everybody. This is Dynasty Mode, the unofficial EA Sports college football podcast, college football game podcast. My name is Arky and that guy right over there is Demetri Oravanos. Demetri, man,
Where?
I missed you last week, brother, but you had to go on your week-long celebration of your birthday tour, and I appreciate it. Good hustle.
That's right. Like every sorority girl at the University of Alabama, I celebrate my birth month. And last week was when the celebration kicked into high gear.
That's right. In fact, I'm very honored to have gotten any time with you, to be honest, over this last month. So, and you know, when you say month, you mean like the month before and the month after, like leading up to and exiting.
I mean, Arky, my birthday was just the previous month. Why would I not keep the celebration going if people want to, wish me a happy birthday? Why would I not allow them to treat me special?
Demetri, now you've gotten into the crux of all of society, which is that's the way we all should be, and then we all stop complaining about it.
That's right.
You know, everyone likes to complain about how entitled younger folks are. Maybe you should act entitled too. Get over it.
I often say this to my mother, who is very old. Whenever she complains about younger people around her at work or my sister's friends act entitled, I often tell her, maybe your generation should stop believing they're all a bunch of pieces of crap. Just like yourself, just a bit.
Yeah. Just get some therapy, or you know what? Just every instinct you have to hate the current generation, stop it. Act like that current generation, and you won't have the problem with it, because then we're all connected again, and that's how we harmonize this country, Demetri.
I believe Michael Jordan said it best. Stop it. Get some help.
That's right. He did say that. I think. Who knows at this point?
Right.
But the history is whatever we want to write it to be.
That's right.
History is one thing, but the future is what is now.
Ooh.
And that is what I'd like to talk about with the most recent podcast we had with Brandon Marcello of 24/7 Sports, who had been doing some research of his own into the college football game. I find this because I wanted to get your thoughts on this, because I sent you the podcast and I sent you the notes on it, and the article that he wrote for 24/7 Sports. Like all this stuff, but that he's written, I should say, and that we talked about. But I did get a chance to talk about it with the guy who actually matters on this show, which is you,
sweetie.
Demetri. Well, again, it's your birthday month. I'm trying to, fluff that up.
Of course.
So, I wanted to know what the princess of the program thought about this, a lot of these things, and that's why.
I will tell you, Arky, I had a conversation with somebody. I can't say who. I cannot out them as to who it was, but they listened to the podcast and they said, and this is somebody that works in college football media circles. Okay. I told them, they listened to the podcast and they said that the thing that jumped out to them was the story about Arkansas providing, 3,500 pieces of video and audio to make sure they're in the game. Yeah. And I told them I thought that was a little bit of like SEC little brother syndrome, right? Like Alabama acts holier than thou. Georgia is probably going to start acting holier than thou. But Arkansas exists somewhere in that our shit don't stink SEC mentality. And also we get that this is a fun branding thing, right? They exist somewhere in between those two. Right. And I was told no, that isn't exactly the case, that this person who is very connected within the Arkansas program says he does not know this for a fact, but believes wholeheartedly that comes directly from Sam Pittman, who gets what a big deal this game coming back is.
Oh, man. I said this to, I think I said this to Brandon on the podcast last week, which was, I tried to get people who were going to be at SEC Media Days, people that I knew, to ask the question, of players, fine, but of coaches.
Yeah.
I was very interested, like, if the coaches have been approached yet. Listen, yes, that's news. No, that's news, right? Like, we get to figure out something about it. And the one guy I pointed out to both the people I sent the question to, as well, I think to Brandon, was ask a guy like Sam Pittman.
Yeah.
Sam Pittman feels like the kind of guy that sort of gets this. Right?
So
like Like he
This would be
doesn't
my
look
guess.
like it, but like his entire personality that you've seen since he's been at Arkansas, it fits. And hearing that story makes me feel so much smarter.
So this would be my guess. My guess would be that Pittman himself is not and never was a big player of this game. But think about how long Sam Pittman was. What was he, O-line coach or a D-line coach?
O-line.
O-line. Okay. Think about how long he was an O-line coach. Think about how many hours these guys spend in the football facility, specifically with their position group coach, right? I would imagine that he heard plenty of chatter or maybe even witnessed with his own eyes some in-house tournaments of this game. And so he gets that this is a unifying thing. He definitely saw those years he coached at Georgia that, Georgia is off limits. You can be anybody but us, or everybody plays as us. I'm sure he saw all sorts of different, like all the things we did in college around this game. That is my guess, is that it just is not lost on Sam Pittman that has been missing for a decade.
Before we get to the reaction of what Brandon said, since you brought that up, let me juxtapose to what Matt Brown of Extra Points was reporting earlier, I think today on Monday when we were recording this, is that in comparison to the 3,500 pieces of intel, the assets that Arkansas has sent, as far as at least the audio is concerned, Matt Brown reported that Nebraska sent back what they had sent to EA Sports, and it's all of 2 pieces of audio.
Very Scott Frost reaction. I mean, look, so Nebraska... well, fair. Nebraska falls into that, the opposite thing, right? Marcello talked about that Arkansas State has not responded at all. And, maybe it is because in that episode, Marcello juxtaposed 3,500 from Arkansas to nothing from Arkansas State. And in this case, now we're talking about 3,500 from Arkansas to 2 from Nebraska. I wonder if there are coaches and athletic directors, probably more realistically athletic directors, that don't know what they don't know about, forget this game, about marketing, right? About being visible in the cool spaces for young people. And look, PS5, Xbox Series, whatever, like those are cool spaces to be in, to be seen in.
Yeah, it's not just the... to me, the Arkansas State thing is why wouldn't this be like a priority for you?
Absolutely. Like Sunbelt MAC teams, they should be all over this.
Yeah, Nebraska, I can get why a bigger school might be like, you got most of our stuff, we'll get to you kind of thing. But to send 2 pieces of audio is like I feel like that literally was sending Trev Albert's Spotify playlist, and that was it.
That's right.
He just had two songs on it, and that's all he listens to.
I mean, let's get away from the stuff Marcello told us about and Matt Brown's report, and let's just talk about, I guess, an earlier Matt Brown story about the kid at Troy that has taken it upon himself to make sure Troy is properly represented in this game. How you are on the G5 level, and like not even the American or the Mountain West G5 level, and you are not bending over backwards to make sure you are as in the game as you possibly can be, is baffling to me.
It is, because EA is going to be so willing to bend over backwards for you because of the mistake they made with South Alabama before.
Right.
Like, they're not going to make the mistake of not giving you everything that they can give you as far as the game, but you have to give it to them. What you want, what specifically is for you. And to be able, I think one of the first ones I saw that I liked was James Madison, right?
Mm-hmm.
They were sending stuff, including the song I first heard in college called "Start Playing Purple." Start Wearing Purple. Sorry, Start Wearing Purple. And it's a very it's a college song, like college kids would like. It's very like gypsy sounding, and you like it. It's not punk. It's a little gypsy. It's not really rock. So it's fun.
It's not like Cardigan's 1960s college fight sort of stuff.
I wish I knew.
Like, it doesn't come out with like a "Start Wearing Purple" for the old boys from JMU.
But the song does begin with "Start wearing purple for me now."
I
The
see.
song is on my phone. Like I love the song. It's in my list. Like it's a great song. It's a lot of fun to listen to. But
Mm.
like that again, juxtaposed to Nebraska.
As a graduate of the University of Alabama, the only song in my phone is Dixieland Delight.
As opposed to Nebraska, who probably sent the corn song on TikTok, right? Like that.
Yeah.
That's just all that they've sent at this point. I don't understand that mindset. But okay, let me get to some of the things that he talked about in the program, which is important. He went over and over and over and over to mention the things we've kind of heard so far about how everyone wants it to be known that this isn't just a Madden reskin. Like that this
Yeah.
is, it is using the same engine as Madden. It's not a Madden engine, it's a different engine. The engine's called Frostbite. And if you care to get into the weeds, we can a little bit. It's an engine developed years and years ago that was bought by EA that was for a first-person shooter game. Right? That's what it was designed for. And from the very beginning, EA had troubles trying to transition this engine to things like Madden, and that's why you see things like Madden having Metacritic scores of 0.6 or 0.3, 0.6, and 1.9 as of the last looking for the most recent Madden game.
So
It just doesn't provide itself well to games that aren't first-person shooter, and it's really difficult to go in the back end and sort of, kick around with that and to make it more, more friendly for the gameplay user.
I think that's one thing we forget, right? Because you and I have talked many times about the fact that we aren't gamers. We like this particular video game. Like EA is a big company. And like for years, EA had the Star Wars license, right? Like they had, didn't they have one? They had the UFC license. I think they had one of the big wrestling licenses for a while. I mean, there is life to Electronic Arts beyond EA Sports. So
Barely.
you understand, well, now barely, yeah.
That's
But
right.
you understand why they would have a focus on an engine that is not sports centric. That being said, Roy Bellamy, who's a producer for Dan Le Batard's whatever we're calling it now, streaming radio show,
I would say
tweeted out,
Empire, but that works.
sure, he tweeted out a video of a ridiculous glitch in Madden. It is one of those kind of glitches where like all of your progress be damned, you're going to have to reset. This thing is not going to resolve itself, right? And he
Okay.
Go ahead.
Was that the 2-minute video I saw on Twitter of like everyone in the middle of the field sort of
Where the ball is like you see the ball fly out and there's still this scrum
yeah,
in the
for
middle.
like
Yeah.
2 minutes. And it
Yeah,
only stops
and
because Twitter only gives you 2 minutes and 20 seconds to post a video.
right. And so he tweeted that this is what happens when you have no competition. So I'm going to connect these things together, right? I understand that there is life to Electronic Arts beyond EA Sports, and that is why they would invest in an engine like Frostbite. But there has been no motivation for them to innovate in the ways of a football specific engine or something that would really be just next generation, next level, blow your mind kind of animation, technology, etc. Because why should there be? Like, there's no competition in the NFL video game world, and there's been no college football game for however long. So that is one of the things I get. It's not a Madden reskin, but the fact that they are sticking with the same engine that has given them so many problems for so many years, I don't know that I am ready to accept that it's not just a reskin.
No, and I get that. But for me, it's different. I paid attention a lot to the lead up of the last Madden release, right? That happened, what are we talking, like 2 weeks ago, roughly from when you're hearing this.
Yeah.
And they were very quiet about the game in general, besides like releasing some teaser videos and stuff.
The cover image, I think, was about it, really.
Yeah, for real. Like that and their field sense technology, like that they sort
right.
of implemented in the field. You're like, what the fuck is that? But okay, can I direct the ball in the middle of the air? I don't know what the fuck to do with that. Like, that's beyond my comprehension. Like, just throw the shit. I don't know. And what I noticed is that Madden is often been very robust with their like excitement coming into a game. They've been very loud about this is the best or the most advanced or the better. to get you excited about this game. But this particular game that they weren't. And in fact, one of their producers did a piece on NFL on NFL.com, or was interviewed for a piece. He said, like, we said very plainly, we're being pretty quiet about this. Like, we know the last few years we have taken a lot of lumps. Like, I'm not kidding. The Metacritic score for Madden 21 was a 0.3. That's out of 10.
Okay,
that's
not good.
If it was at a 0.2, it'd be great.
Right.
But it's at a 0.3.
It's like
the next year, which was last year's game, they doubled to a 0.6.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, listen,
better.
That's progress.
Yeah, better. Right. And then this last year, before I was recording, and I forgot to refresh it again, but it was at a 1.9. Mm-hmm. Okay. Again, progress, but that's fucking awful.
They literally tripled their Metacritic score, Arky. How can you complain?
Well, I think a lot of people could complain, and I saw it all on social media. So I say that to say this, that the fact that they're so openly talking about two people like Matt and Brandon who are asking about this, that this is not Madden, like every chance you get, and even Brandon was talking about it, this is not Madden, and that they're making tweaks and tweaks and tweaks and tweaks. It gives me hope. It gives me some optimism. I'm buying the shit regardless.
Sure.
But still, like, it does, like, there is that hesitation to be like, okay, are you really not going to be that? But again, they weren't like that with this Madden. And Madden, it's the fucking NFL, man. Like, it's been the big brand for forever.
Yeah. So let me ask you,
or the big sports brand forever, I should say.
Let me ask you a question about that reaction, about that constantly hammering, it's not Madden, it's not Madden, it's not Madden. Maybe the answer doesn't matter here, but do you think that is a reaction by EA to say, like, yeah, we get their problems with Madden right now? Or do you think maybe that is understanding the audience that I guess for us as radio guys, we would call P1s, your most dedicated of dedicated fans, definitely don't want this to be Madden. We don't want this to resemble the NFL in any way. We want this to be its own thing. Like I said, at the end of the day, if they are very outspoken about this not being a Madden reskin, maybe the reason doesn't matter. But does that make sense to you? Like, does it make sense to you that it's just about these are the lumps Madden has taken? Or do you think it is about, like, for years they have known when they bring this thing back, we do not want Madden. We want NCAA or whatever it's going to be called
now. Well, that's interesting. We'll wrap this and lead right into that because it's a very quick tidbit next. I think it's knowing that for as long as that game has been gone, like, they know this next game is going to be a special lead up and a special build up. Like, there are people tweeting. I sent you the tweet about, who was it? Was it a Utah State fullback or tight end or something that was jumping in the middle of a play that didn't need to?
Yeah.
And it was a tweet to someone saying me testing out my controller when the new NCAA comes out next summer. Like, it's, like we're seeing the reacclimation of, on TikTok, I'm seeing tons of people who are like, playing the Brad Nessler intro music, and you're like, oh, in 1 year, like I said on the screen, in 1 year from now, we'll be playing this, life will be good again, things like that.
Right.
Like, there's going to be a special buildup for this. I think anything that could be negative about that, which is those still playing Madden, knowing that it will be associated with a Madden-like engine, the Frostbite engine, could put a damper on it. But I think also they want you. I think there's a concerted effort to not have you be anywhere near associated with Madden. And I think that's right too.
Yeah.
I think to say, hey, listen, this is its own thing, despite the engine. This is everything. We're going to build this as best we can from the bottom up.
Yeah. Can I ask you about something else you and Brandon talked about that I found curious, I guess?
Yes, but can I mention this one quick tidbit that I was going to lead to, and then you go into that because it's very quick.
Please.
We threw it in sort of at the end of the show, which was that this game isn't going to be called NCAA 24 or whatever it's going to be whenever it comes out. It will be college football. We sort of talked about that before, but you could tell how quickly Brandon said that like EA they're not fans. And I think that'll
Yeah.
be, in the next couple of weeks, I think it'd be good to talk about the court case that got them to sort of really hate each other, because the NCAA basically threw EA under the bus in that court
Yep.
case, and EA was like, "Fuck you!" Like,
Well,
even if it's $1 to license that name, we ain't on it. And I
yeah.
think Brandon also brought up a good point, which is it's why you're not hearing any buzz as far as a basketball game being launched.
Yeah. All right. So speaking of licensing, you guys talked about the potential cover athlete and
Mm-hmm.
what they do exactly for a cover athlete. And I've had a lot of thoughts about what you do here. And you guys talked about the fact that NIL is on the table. You got to consider that it's probably going to be a current player, or at the very least, that is an option that we didn't have before, right? The thing that I keep coming back to, and understanding not everybody is going to download this, but a lot of people are going to download it instead of buying a physical copy. I just don't see how they don't do multiple cover options,
Yeah.
I guess if it's a download icon options, because you've got 10 years of the sports history to make up for.
Yeah.
Or, you could do, maybe you strike a deal with all the players, right? That it's this much to be in the game. And, if someone buys your icon for the game, you get this percentage of it. I don't know. But the fact of the matter is you've got 10 years of history. Like, we never even saw, we never saw Lamar Jackson in the game. We never saw Devontae Smith in the game, who might be one of the best college receivers ever. There's so many dudes. Kyler Murray, we just never saw in the game that it would be like you could name probably 24 people that you say they're going to be on the cover because they never got to be in the game before, and we would go, that's a home run.
Yeah, I think if you're EA, that's a slam dunk choice at this point. Like, they've done it before, right? Like with
Right.
with various versions. Whether, I think it was 2010. They did 5 or 6 versions, but those are all
Like
console specific.
every platform, right, had its
Yeah,
own cover.
yeah.
There was one.
The Wii. Do you remember what the Wii one? The Wii one had. Who
Oh,
was on the cover of the Wii one? Of the Wii, I think it was 2010. I might have to go back.
Was that Nitro from UCF?
That was is his name Sparty from Michigan State? I think.
Sparty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do appreciate the. Was it Nitro? It should have been Nitro.
I mean, look, any mascot that claims to be something normal in the mascot world, a knight, for instance, but is honestly a demon, or else you would see its face. Like, that's hard not to be one of the better mascots in college sports. No, and then was it 12 that you could download multiple different covers for? Like, you had to download and print it out yourself, obviously, but they had other options.
I think before people knew what Photoshop was, sure, yeah. Like, you could make your own. 12 was it's Mark Ingram, right?
I believe it was.
Yeah. I don't think that there's any way you can lose with making region specific, or hell, honestly, every school.
Agreed.
Like,
every school.
like, if you're only paying 4 figures for someone to be in the game, maybe double it to go to a current athlete, or recently retired, graduated.
Yeah, I mean, so think about this. All right, let's use that school we were just talking about, UCF. How many UCF fans would kill to have Shaquem Griffin on?
Oh, at least 3,
right?
Right?
Yes. No,
That's
I mean,
like,
I think that's one that's like, that's such a iconic moment and character for that program that the game missed out on.
Yeah, like, first of all, you start with the Griffin family, right? So
right.
that's going to immediately triple your investment.
Assuming, well, I guess, yeah, the 2 brothers don't live together, and the parents obviously have their own place. So, yeah, there's 3.
Right,
you got to assume Dante Culpepper's going to buy the game. There's 4.
I don't know if it matters to EA or not in this case, whether or not people are buying online and downloading versus the physical copy. But if you had enough physical, sense urgency to go get that physical copy because, you know, someone for, Brew McCoy's on for Tennessee or something, as opposed to
Yeah.
just downloading the icon. Like, I'm not saying you double, your sales for the Tennessee fans, but I could see a certain segment of the population getting the digital copy to be able to play it early before everybody else, and also be able to go get the physical
Right.
copy because Brew McCoy's on it, and that thing just never gets opened.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that. I have a uncle that to this day I don't think has ever opened. And granted, why would he at this point? But I don't think he's ever opened his copy of was it NCAA 01 that had Sean Alexander on the cover?
That is the one that has Sean Alexander.
Yeah, I mean,
And
like to this day. Well, now, granted, I haven't been to his house in a decade, but for years it sat in cellophane, displayed at his office.
I'll say this: if you look over my shoulder, and I'll zoom in a little bit, one of those packages has a fresh NCAA 2001 in it, and I don't even remember which one at this point.
It's the Gatorade bottle.
It is the Gatorade bottle that is signed by someone who's on radio right now. But it was his Gatorade bottle when he was playing at the university, and that's the only reason I think it's cool. But you have to, but multiple are not just the current athletes, but like if your player or if your university won the Heisman, like why not be able
for
to,
sure.
like in the time since the Heisman Trophy, or excuse me, since the game's been out, like why wouldn't you want to be able to highlight a commemorative cover too?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, you go back to Lamar Jackson, right? I mean, there haven't been, because of how many Heisman since the game went away, Oklahoma and Alabama have kind of dominated. We don't have a ton of those, but you've got, well, let's see. I guess Robert Griffin had his before the game went away. You know what? I'm just going to over and over again say Lamar Jackson. I guess Joe Burrow, right? LSU hadn't had another Heisman winner in quite some time at that point.
Yeah, Joe Burrow is a perfect example. Like super recent. You can, fucking use it from recent, right? Like as far as his popularity is concerned. So it's not, like let's see. Baker Mayfield's is recent. That's also
recent-ish, sure.
Is what?
Recent-ish?
Yeah, I can get it. Marcus Mariota. That was
yeah, I mean that's a good one.
Doable, right?
Yeah.
That's, like Johnny Manziel was the last Heisman Trophy winner
in the game, right?
In the game, because 13 was Jameis Winston,
right?
And we could have a Jameis cover.
I was about to say, you would want to have the last guy to ever win it at FSU. That'd be something to commemorate.
Is that a predictive thing, or
that is a prediction? Yes.
All right. Well, damn. Okay. Another one of the things I wanted to talk about from the news, I wanted to get your opinion on, was the fact that no coaches have been approached yet, and not only no coaches have been approached yet, neither have the players either. Now, the coaches for me is one thing, because like they're already sort of negotiated with contracts. I know there's not a union or a collective over, but it seems like you could just negotiate with their agents or whatever you have to be. But the fact that Brandon reported
that actually is a pretty funny idea, that like only Jimmy Sexton guys are in the game,
which would be like 70% of the coaches. That'd be all right.
That's true. Yeah,
I wouldn't notice.
I think at this point, literally the entire SEC, right? Except Brian Harsin.
I was about to say, I don't know about Clark Lee either. I don't know, actually, to be honest with you. Vanderbilt. He may be, now that they beat Hawaii recently. Shout out for the timely reference. I think also worthy of discussion is that Brandon said,
do you know, by the way, I put money down that neither Hawaii nor Vanderbilt would score 30 points in that game.
Oh,
oops.
That hurts. Yeah. Poor Timmy Chang, right?
Yeah.
Go Bows. Always, forever.
49 unanswered points in that game.
To Vanderbilt.
Things are going great on the island.
To Vanderbilt. And they're not even getting to play in the rightful stadium right now.
Right. They're playing in a parking lot.
Yeah, it's essentially, it's a painted parking lot, but it's still,
that's true. We laid carpet on top of the asphalt.
That's right. So anyway, being reported that EA doesn't even need the collective signatures and all to be finalized until as recently as like 25 days before the game is to launch, which is, Brandon said, like, no, it's not like there's a handful of people doing it. It's a lot of work, but there's a lot of people. But that feels really close to be trying to get some of these accurate facials and stuff and pad shapes and all of these players. If you can go up to 25 days before the launch of the game, you're like, oh, Will Anderson said yes.
Okay, so this brings up my like the question of, are we going to have more of the, the example I always use, right? QB 10 from Alabama is not AJ McCarron, but he is from Mobile and he is 6'3" and he does have jet black hair, right? But it's not AJ McCarron. Does EA Sports either do that again, or, Arky, this is the fun one.
Mm-hmm.
What if EA has already done the scans of all of these kids and they have all of the stats and everything lined up and ready to go, but as an example, the North Carolina roster is the Coastal Carolina roster until the things are signed. And then they just flip-flop and put everybody on the teams they're supposed to be on.
So you're just switching folders on the desktop at this point.
Exactly.
Like, when it's time.
Exactly.
It would be devious and mischievous at the same time. Man, I got to, sort of, so Brandon also talked about how, like, we're not going to really expect all 85 scholarship players from everywhere. But something tells me if you can go up to a month or even 2 months before the game, we're going to have some high-level names that just aren't quite looking like what their avatar is. Their avatar is like a clearly generic dude who's slightly been sculpted.
Arky,
news came out.
I have an alternative for you.
Okay.
I have an alternative for you. Your underbite is more and more severe the longer you wait to sign.
Oh, as a penalty. I like that.
Yes. Yes.
So if you wait till 2 months before to get in, you are definitely going to look like one of them fish that come out of the ocean that don't see light.
That's right. That's exactly right. They'll say, like, look, you have until this day to sign if you want your avatar to look like you. And each day, not your entire underbite, but one tooth grows a little bit more over your top lip.
Listen, you need incentives, right? Like every
That's
contract needs an incentive to get done, So why else would you sign the paperwork?
Yeah. An escalator clause of sorts.
Of the tooth, I get it. Yeah. Your mandible escalates for every week that you don't sign this contract. I think also that if we find ourselves in that position, because I think this is the most, I think besides the gameplay itself, which, by the way, listen, every game has glitches and I'll get over them, right? Like, because they'll design patches and fixes for the majority of it, right? Like, I've dealt with it for every game in my life. But if this game comes out with a bunch of rando Joes, like as your starting quarterbacks that of people that we know, I feel like that is the toughest hill for legitimacy to climb for EA if they are committing, which it sounds like they are, to wanting to be able to get the players in the game. Again, they don't have to, and we'll all get over it. But if they are wanting to do this and commit to this, man, this feels like the toughest hill to climb without possibly getting your legs taken out from under you.
So I would argue that there is an element of prepared for this that a lot of sports video game players are. And I worry that EA Sports may be resting on that, which is, how many games, how many truly highly anticipated games come out and are released as their not finished version, and then there's a little DLC you got to pay for down the road. This is a big part of the reason why EA doesn't have to do this, doesn't have to have these agreements locked up until 25 days before, because there is probably a cutoff date for getting it in the game, ready to ship, and a date where it's got to be available as a download at X point before or during the season.
Yeah, perhaps. I don't know enough to be able to other than just purely guess and play along with you, but I don't know. I mean, I don't have a great answer for that, or even other than just to be speculative to say, you know, like I can understand like if you're gonna have to wait to like unlock or purchase Bryce Young or something like that for Ultimate Team Mode, which it sounds like it's something that EA definitely wants to have. But I don't know, man. I just don't know.
I'm not saying I like it. I'm saying that's sort of the world we're set up for now when it comes to video games.
God, man, fucking sucks. I don't like that part.
This game, by the way, in the background, if you're watching this on YouTube, this is a shootout.
Oh yeah. You got the Ohio State taking on LSU, a top 7 battle.
Yes,
it's a 35 first quarter points. Still a minute and a half to go in the game. Or first quarter, I should say. Yeah. I think another thing that I wanted to bring up before we throw this out there, before we wrap this up, which is, as we talked about, Road to Glory seems to be on the way back. Dynasty mode for sure. And we've said it before. You can't have this game without Dynasty mode. It's just stupid, right? Like it's like okay, it's college in the NFL, cool,
right?
Not at all what we're interested in. But also, they look to be bringing back elements that you remember from the game, as far as branding from other places. Like he brought up the idea of having magazine covers come back, and whether it's ESPN or Sports Illustrated or The Athletic or whoever it might be.
I was about to say it's going to be very interesting in a world now with almost none of those magazines.
Shit, like I can't. Can you like? I imagine the push someone like Barstool will be making to get into this. And then the recruiting aspect. You remember recruiting, like I think right in 14 had like the Nike Spark Q rating or whatever. Yeah, stupid. I never understood it. Like, hey, this guy's a 262. I don't understand.
It's like QBR to me.
But right, stop making stuff up. Make up real stats like pop yards, percentage of potential.
Arky, so here's why pop yards works. We as human beings are wired to operate on a 1 to 100 scale. Don't give me a 1 to 149. What the fuck does that mean?
It's such a really good point. By the way, if you want more on pop yards, DM me. I'll talk to you about it. And also, like whether the recruiting aspect maybe have like 24/7 sports on it, which seems to be like
that one to me seems like the most likely, right? Like because I think, correct me if I'm wrong, didn't we get some designation of the EA, or I'm sorry, not the EA, the ESPN top? Maybe it was still the 150 at that point, but didn't we get some designation of the top however many recruits getting that little icon next to their name?
Oh, that does feel familiar. I'd have to go back and play a couple of things to see. I do think that there was like a special designation for being the top of the top.
But look, I mean, to your point, introducing.
But I wasn't in the last one. I know that.
Okay, so introducing one of those recruiting services to me seems like the easiest branded thing to put in the game, and probably the one that we most expect.
Yeah. I mean, because you're gonna do the recruiting rankings, and you're gonna do, the team's interest level in you, and blah 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 blah. But as far as having it feel unique to the sport itself, and having it feel not like just a generic game at this point, like you should have more of what we see in everyday life, and if that's literally just throwing in a few elements of some branding, like that you have all the incentive in the world to do it. Like there's not a reason not to, as long as 24/7 isn't looking to. I mean, sure they want to be well represented, but as long as they're not looking for $20 million to put their logo in the game. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I mean, and I guess, as much as we have talked about what the media element of this could be, I think as long as we are not overloaded with cut screens, right? Overloaded with load screens of all right, well, we're going to do the 247 ranking, so we've got to put, a monologue from Josh Pate in here, or we're going to do,
Okay, yeah.
the athletic cover. So we've got to have a piece from Andy Staples in here. I mean, like, I definitely want the extended media of college football represented, but not to the point where it slows down just getting through the game.
Oh no, make it features that you can go explore, and
Sure.
make it a thing like 2K, for example, has like when you're recruiting, when you're going through the draft process of a player,
Mm-hmm.
that when you're drafting the player, like it'll have media members come up and say like, hey, this guy, was watching about a Serbia, he's the next guy to sort of watch for. He's like a little Luka Doncic, just not as much speed kind of thing. Like they'll give you like little tidbits like that. If it's like that, you can explore it and be a part of it. But yeah, don't drag down the game itself. Like the game still is get to the game, but Dynasty mode, and if it's elements like that inside Dynasty mode, then that's for me to go explore, which I will on my own anyway. Make it, like we've talked about before, a fuller experience for us that don't just want to, sim to next week, sim to next week, sim to next week.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, and that's it. That's all I got.
Well, talk to you later, everybody.
Yeah, goodbye. But no, I just wanted to be able to get Princess's thoughts on that, and that's what I think. I think that's the most interesting thing that came from it from my standpoint, which is how quickly you could get players into the game if they're still trying to figure out this collective bargaining union thing to sign on for the game itself, which they are still doing, by the way. They have not figured out. We thought it was going to be as soon as July. They're still working on that, and really, who knows at this point?
I'm telling you, everybody brace yourself for that being downloadable content.
I feel like as much money as I'm willing to pay for this game, they should ask for more.
Yes, that frankly is what I like the companies I choose to give my money to demand more of it.
As I like to say with my online companies, especially the ones I game with, keep the tab open.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We'll settle up at the end of the month, and then we'll do it again the next month, and the next month, and then the next month. All right, Demetri, that's going to do it for us. Another great podcast here. We got another one coming up next week, probably, most likely. But until then, hey, do us a favor. Go share all of this stuff wherever you can find it. And if you're listening to the podcast on Apple or wherever you can review it, go leave a review. Comment in the YouTubes if you want. And tell people you're having a shit ton of good time here talking about this video game as it's getting ready to come out. And by the way, if you haven't subscribed already to the YouTube, you should. Because there you will see, as of currently this recording, I'm 1-1 as a college football coordinator. 1-1. Game-winning drive. You're welcome. Whatever that meant. UNLV, suck it. All right, that's going to do it for us. Demetri, I would like for you to say something nice to the good people.
Saving some to next week, everybody.